Did you know that we've had over 100 guests on the Hello 7 podcast? Now that is bananas. And every now and then, when we're right in the thick of a conversation, somebody will say something that is the biggest mic drop.
You will always get what you get.
The biggest business breakthrough or the biggest life lesson. We've shared so many episodes of this podcast and you might not know where to start. So today, I'm making things very easy for you and rounding up some of my favorite moments. So settle down, get that notebook ready, because we're going to be delivering takeaway after takeaway. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the Hello 7 podcast. That's 7 as in 7 figures. I'm your host, Rachel Rodgers.
Separate God from the law of attraction. It's all the same thing. You will always get what you get.
Yes.
If you give love, you'll get love. If you give sparingly, guess what? You're going to get back sparingly. This is why I'm never afraid to invest in myself. He says, every time I invest in myself, my investment comes back tenfold. This is why I'm never afraid to help people, because every time I help people, right? Because what am I saying to God when I help people? How can I serve you? And guess what God is saying to me? Ash, how can I serve you? And that's how the blessings come. So that's actually, and I think in the beginning, I didn't know it. That was just who I was.
Just doing what you felt to do.
Right? But now so I'm not telling anybody to serve to get back, because that's not going to work. So let's be clear. You have to want to serve. You have to serve, like in your heart, you want to serve people. You want to see people get better. You have a skill and you want to enhance people's life with that skill. Innately, that's what you want to do. And if you have joy in doing that,
yeah,
then you will get rewarded. A lot of people had that innately though, but they allow fear, they allow responsibility. Oh, I got kids. Oh, I got married. Oh, people depend on me, and so I have to focus on me. And I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. If in your heart you have a skill that could help somebody else do something, give that skill away, and you don't even have to give it away for free. There's a business model around, like somebody could pay for it. There's a business model around what you could give to others, and that is the pathway to your prosperity. That is the way that you are going to live in abundance, because my shirt says, right, abundance is your birthright.
Right.
It is promised to you that abundance is your birthright. The only thing, though, is that we don't allow the abundance. We block the abundance by being fearful, by worrying, by not being obedient to who we should become, right? Be, do, have.
Yes.
You have to be first. Be who God made you to be, and then once you become that,
yes,
now you can start doing from your being, and then you can start having from what you're doing.
Yeah.
I want to start with just a small little story about some small thing that happened to you related to like a storm in a ship.
You guys. So my last book, The Lazy Genius Kitchen, it was supposed to come out March 22nd of 2022, the year we are in now. And about 6 weeks before that book was supposed to come out, which you all have launched something. If you have a business, you're like constantly launching things, and the energy required to launch things. It's different than your regular day-to-day, right? So I'm in it. I'm like thick in it. I get a call from my agent, and she says, well, fun news. The boat that is carrying all 30,000 copies of your book was in a storm. And we think your books might be in the bottom of the ocean. That is the correct response, you guys. Yes.
Wow.
I was like, what does one do to respond to news like that? And yeah, it was an interesting thing, because even when you have everything lined up, you have all of your plans in a row, you're feeling great energy, you're leaning into your gifts and what matters to you and all these things, there are some times where something can happen that can derail that. And so it was an excellent exercise, at least eventually, once I sort of got over the craziness of my books might be in the ocean. It was a really lovely experience to see and affirm what mattered to me and my team and my business, and being like, okay, we got to lean on what we've chosen matters here. Let's make this happen.
Listen up. If you're tired of setting the same income goals year after year and still coming up short, it's time to change the game. You know you're meant for more, but right now, your business isn't moving like it should. You've got the talent, the skills, the ambition, but your bank account isn't reflecting that. That's where the Make Money Moves Challenge comes in. For 5 days, I'm giving you the exact strategies, mindset shifts, and money-making moves that have helped me and thousands of other entrepreneurs break out of the feast or famine cycle and start stacking real wealth. No more scrambling to hit your revenue goals, and no more waiting for the perfect time to go all in. You're getting daily action steps that will have you making more money immediately. This isn't a fluffy feel-good challenge. This is about building a business that actually pays you what you deserve. So are you in? If so, join me for our next challenge. Go to hello7.co/challenge to sign up now.
Yes. And so what was what happened? Did the book came out later?
The book came out later. So we decided that we had to, I'm trying to think of how much I want to share since this is going to be public. Basically, there was a lack of decision making that I wish had been made. And so I had to say, okay, at what point are we too far gone, right?
Yes.
How long can we wait to see if the books are indeed drowned before we have to make a different decision? And so we ended up changing the release date from March 22nd to May 3rd, which was the latest I wanted to go and the earliest my publisher was willing to go. So I was like, well, I guess that's what we're choosing.
You had to fight for that.
We had to fight for that. And, but I was also really grateful that my publisher trusted me. I think that's one thing, I had success with The Lazy Genius Way. That was launched literally during the pandemic. It was August 2020. So not a great time to try to sell anything. And, but it did well, it continued to do well. And so I do think that my trust and my own skill set in my audience and readers and all of that, it did give me the credibility with the people who were making the decision to say, okay, we trust you. We're going to try to make this happen. So we moved it to May 3rd. They got a secondary publisher to try to get some printed really fast in case all the books were in the ocean and all the things. And there are 3 words that are a huge part of my team's culture. I think it's really, really important anytime you're running any sort of business that you have these markers, right? These values in your business that help direct you every day, but especially when things go crazy town.
Yes.
So 3 of the words that are really important to our team are nimble. We're going to be nimble. We always want to be nimble. Creative. That we're not just doing things the way that everyone else does them just because what works for someone else might not work for you. Yes. You don't need to reinvent the wheel if it doesn't matter to you, but you also don't have to be stuck doing exactly what everybody else is doing for their business, right? And then the third one was we protect the vibe. We really seek to not be cynical. Can I tell you how hard it is to not be cynical when your books are at the bottom of the sea? Very hard.
Yes.
So those 3 things especially, because they were already part of our marrow, it helped us tremendously. We really did not flounder.
Yes.
Because we knew what we needed to do. It's we're built for this.
Yes.
We are built to do this.
We're creative.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so we moved the, obviously the publishing date moved to May 3rd, and I came up with this idea to do a pub crawl where we crawled from one pub location date to the next pub location date. And we had different events between those 2 dates because what we ended up doing, because here's what matters to me, and that's the whole foundation of the Lazy Genius Way, is what matters to you.
Right.
One of the things that matters to me personally, I don't like to work a lot in the summer. I don't want to do it.
Same.
I want to go to
recess.
I want to go to the pool. I want to hang out with my kids. My husband is a school counselor, so he gets a lot of the summers off. It's a really beautiful time for us to be together as a family. And I did not want to be selling a book in the summer. And so I decided, all right, well, if we move this to May 3rd, in the ways that books are normally released into the world, I need to give another at least 4, if not 6 weeks after that publication date.
Because my publication date was May 4th, 2021. So
you just got to keep going.
Deep in it in June.
It's no fun, man. It's no fun. And so I decided, all right, what matters to me is that I end this work as soon as possible, So what the pub crawl did is it turned the beginning, May 3rd, into the end.
Yes.
We ended with this great launch party in town, and we had a couple hundred people come, and it was so fun. But we had been building up to it. So once we got to the launch party, it was like, the book is in the world, and I'm done.
Bye.
and it was,
Bye, y'all.
and it was great. So I think, though, I wish that it had not. Well, actually, I don't know if that's true. I was going to say I wish it hadn't happened. But that kind of situation happening confirmed, reinforced these values that we really, really hold as people and as a company. And I don't know that we would have known that otherwise.
I mean, I get 90 people that sign up to become clients.
Yes.
I ended up making about a third of them clients. So that's the start of my email list, my 90 people.
I love it.
And then I was just doing one-on-one planning and coaching. I'm not charging enough. I am just making enough to barely get by, to the point where I started not making enough to get by.
Yes.
So I started draining my savings. So my clients are thriving, okay? They're buying houses, they're paying off their debt, they're budgeting, they're hitting all their financial goals. I am going broke.
You're on a struggle bus.
Struggling.
And you're like, this don't feel
It
right.
wasn't making. And
Something right.
and I remember going to God, God, I know you told me to do this.
Yep.
Why do you have me out here struggling? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
This makes no sense. And my clients are calling, oh my God, Dominique, I just paid off my last credit card. And I'm like, yay, you. My credit card debt list is increasing.
Yes.
But I have this big money block where I am so embarrassed and ashamed that I start avoiding my financial situation. I don't want to admit to where I am. I look up cars getting repossessed.
Wow.
My house is in foreclosure. I have no money.
Wow.
None. And I'm like, what just happened?
Yep. Listen, I've had 2 cars repossessed in my entrepreneurial journey because I didn't make enough in the beginning, and I was also undercharging and playing myself in 1,000 different ways.
Literally all the things.
And it was like I was creating that situation myself because I wasn't thinking more strategically, but I wasn't exposed to enough entrepreneurs or enough people to say, this is how you scale a company.
Exactly.
Right? This
and
is how you go
from.
from.
Was the same thing. I was only exposed to entrepreneurs that know how to hustle.
Exactly.
Hustle.
So you out here sweating, it's all sweat equity, and that's how we make money. We show up and we do the work and we make money.
There's entrepreneurs and there's CEOs.
Hello. Say
right?
that.
And that I was acting as an entrepreneur.
Right.
And
almost like, to me, I feel like it's almost like you're essentially a freelancer, right?
That's all you are.
Right.
You just created a new job for yourself.
That's exactly. You've created a better job for yourself. Well, in some
Well,
ways
it was
better.
I have no benefits, no 401k,
Yes.
no PTO. Okay.
Right.
I went from working, 40 hours a week to 24 hours a day. I was like, this
This job is whack.
when is this gonna make sense?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It wasn't making sense. And so I had to sit down one day with my mom. Never forget, I was sitting in the car with her, and she's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was just like, bawling. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm broke. I'm a failure." And da-da-da. And I felt so bad because I know how much my parents had sacrificed for me.
Yes.
To go to college and all the things, and I felt like I had failed them.
Yes.
And then she shared with me that she had faced her own financial struggle. She's like, "We've all been there."
Yes.
And so I went to my grandfather next, and I said, "Listen, I need you to treat me like my client. Treat me like I treat my clients." I sent him, I'm like, these are my budgeting worksheet. These are what I have my clients do. I'm going to come to your house, and I need you to treat me like I am your client. And we sat down. We went over my budget. I couldn't do it by myself.
Yes.
I mentally couldn't do it. I pulled out, I came over with a bag of envelopes of stuff I could not open.
Yeah.
And we went through all my debts. We started calling all of my bill collectors, calling all of the creditors, negotiating with everyone to either get the debts deleted, paying for them in full, or creating a payment plan, and that's how I got out of it. And then I had to take what I always call a BJ, a bridge job, right? And I had to, right? I had to get the BJ, and I went and got a consulting job.
Yes.
And I didn't want to do it, but I got a consulting job.
Listen, sometimes you have to, sometimes that's keeping the dream alive, is having a little side hustle or some other source of income that can help you keep the business open.
And let me tell you how crazy this is, the power of manifestation. I had just decided that I'm going to do this. I was in Atlanta at, I can't remember the name of the conference right now. And we were doing this fun little pitch thing. With Goody Nation, they were doing this little thing. I get on stage, we do the fun pitch. And at the end, this lady walks up to me, and it was like a hackathon type of thing. Yes. She's like, "Oh my gosh, this was so good. I have this financial nonprofit, and I'm based in Bethesda, Maryland." I'm like, I live in Bethesda, Maryland. We're in Atlanta.
Right.
Older white lady. And she said, well, can you come to my house and meet with me when we get back? I said, sure. I go to her house, huge house, right? Multi-millionaire lady. She's like, I have this nonprofit and I need someone to help me run it. Would you be interested? It's a financial literacy nonprofit.
Wow.
And I'm like, So she's like, well, I don't have a huge budget. I'll pay you $3,000 a month. I'm like, say less. Okay.
That sounds like bills paid. Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, bills paid. This is like literally my monthly expenses.
Right.
It literally takes me over the top. I ended up working with her for about a year. It helped get me back on track. I was able to use that, cover all my monthly expenses and all the.
And then you can focus, right? Because you're not so stressed.
I wasn't stressed.
Yes.
Exactly. And I always tell entrepreneurs and all the time, if you have to do that, that's fine.
Yeah, there's no shame in that.
No shame. No shame whatsoever.
And so I supported multiple C-level executives and presidents. And every day when I walked into my corporate environment, I looked at it as if I was going to business school. That's really where the seed was planted.
I love that.
I'm a big believer in, if you want to operate a multi-million-dollar company, you really should gain the experience to see how one is run.
Yes.
Right? You ask questions, you raise hands, you sit in meetings that you may not even have any business sitting in, you take notes. I used to tell my boss, teach me how to read the sales reports. Teach me what these acronyms mean. And they were very open to having those conversations, and they knew that I wasn't going to be a lifer.
Yes.
And I think from the jump, I was also very honest in the interview process, because it's also a reverse interview. I'm trying to figure out if this is the right environment for me.
Right.
And so if you ever make me choose between your corporate environment and the shit I got going on, it'll never be you.
Right.
So as long as you know that, and you know I'm here to learn for a period of time, like we were on the same page, and many of the jobs that I entered, I was very strategic.
Yes.
Every single corporate job I've had, I entered at my salary cap. That's because there are so many other things that were far more important to me, because I knew where I was going and I knew where I wanted my life to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, I love so much about what you're saying, because I think people, they don't recognize, like, the journey is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And there's so much to be learned, even in whatever position you're in right now. If it's not the position, it's not the dream. Like, a career is built over time. Everybody wants everything yesterday. They want to put it in their career in a microwave and have it pop out with a multi-million-dollar company. And it don't work that way, friends. It's going to take effort.
Absolutely.
And that effort that you're talking about, of showing up to your corporate job and saying, what can I learn here? How can I treat this like business school? How can I get as much out of it as possible?
Yeah.
First of all, like, I know for myself, if I'm working with somebody and they are hungry and they are interested in learning and they're excited, right? And they're willing to put effort in, that I'm going to pour into that person. You just want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so then that person, that former boss, can become somebody who refers you and gets you one of your first clients, right? Or, whatever. Even if they don't, they could be somebody that teaches you things that then you can take into the next thing. So I love that. And I think that is so important not to miss, that even if you're not in the thing that you ultimately want to be in, how can you make the most of it right now? How can you turn it into something that is a great opportunity and a learning opportunity?
I also think it's really important to shift your perspective. So I remember when my boss handed me my offer letter, it said $65,000, and he was so geeked. He was so excited. I'm like, okay, playa, okay. And I knew from jump, a job may determine your salary, but you have complete control over your total income.
Hello?
Right? The number that's on the offer letter is what the company can afford. It doesn't amount to your true value.
Yes.
I always knew I was going to be $1 million woman. To the energy that he brought to the table was this is your cap. This is the number we see you as. But I always knew that there was more in store for me, because I had read autobiographies, books, watched documentaries. So I had known that this was going to be a long game. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that I really think that it's important to, you can't hope for a championship ring if you never go to practice.
Hello.
And so your developmental season is absolutely critical. You can't skip over it. You can't dismiss it. You can't operate without intention. Your developmental season is where you really build your creative muscles. And so I took full advantage of the opportunity in the corporate arena. And before I left, I actually built my company to 6 figures from my cubicle.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And I did something, I didn't think I might have gotten, no, I didn't get to 6 figures. I got close to it while working a part-time job in the early days because that's what was necessary, right? And I think people just have this expectation that it's supposed to be easy or supposed to be fast.
Many days I cried my eyes out, right? Like you just out of frustration.
Yes.
I think
you're like, why am I not on the cover of Forbes yet? What is happening?
But like, hello, too, workplace trauma is a real thing.
That
the
too.
Politics, like you have to ask for vacation. I have to ask for vacation. First of all, Listen, I operated very differently in my corporate environment. I made the vacation plans and then I told you I was going on vacation. Like, I just don't like the politics of it all. And honestly, eventually I just grew very frustrated. But the two things that were very important to me before I made my transition was, number one, I wanted to make sure I had a proven track record of sales. That was very important to me. So like prove to myself that I could sell something.
Yes.
And then the second thing, I paid off as much debt as possible. So I went through a period where I was in mountains of debt and I had collections agencies calling me constantly. And I knew that if I was going to make a transition, that was one thing I really didn't want to worry about.
Yeah. I've definitely had that phase of my life. It is like hilarious to me sometimes. I wake up and I'm like, how did you do this?
Yeah, like it's a lot. I started building my team early, and my whole entire paycheck, I would walk away with sometimes $20 because my paycheck would go to the expenses of the company, the assistant I had at the time, like whatever I needed to do to scale and grow.
Yes.
But again, it's sacrifice, right?
Totally.
Like, so you do what you got to do now so that you can do what you want to do later.
Hello.
And you just keep your mind and your eyes on the prize. And sometimes it seems so out of reach, but a lot of this shit has to do with confidence. I don't think people understand that, like, you can be good at what you do, of course, but like you have to really have that belief in yourself.
Yes.
And when you come from an underdog past like I do, like I grew up with a learning difference. I failed grade 11 and 12 English. I failed many of my high school classes. I was not a scholar. I have a processing deficiency. My parents, they never believed that I could do it because there was no blueprint. I mean, we're talking like 2008, 2010 when I graduated from college, and like my parents were like, how are you going to make a living as a writer, right? There wasn't really a blueprint or an example for them to follow. But my belief is that if you want to change your parents' mind, you have to change their reality. Because my mom's whipping around in her new Range, and right? Like, and so when you're able to like help them out with the bills or put a couple stacks in their bank account, like they'll get quiet real quick.
Raising my prices, and that's something that I learned from you, is that I had one price per case.
Yes.
But I always provided payment plans.
Yes.
And so you say, you know what, you have one quote for upfront paying clients and one a higher amount for payment plans. I said, you know what, that's an interesting idea. I'm gonna start implementing that. And the very, very, very few times that I tried that, it went like this. I would quote the price.
Yes.
And just say,
quiet. Just be quiet.
Just be quiet.
Don't explain. Don't like justify.
That's a very different Zulma than 2019. I would say quiet and just wait. And then they would see them fidgeting like, oh, no, well, I wasn't expecting that. And I'm like, just waiting. And then they would say, well, can I pay in the payment plan? I said, oh, of course you can.
Yes.
Then the amount is this.
Yes.
And they will do, well, I guess I have to pay you up front.
Yes.
And I'm like, what just happened?
Yes.
What just happened?
Exactly.
Putting it in practice and seeing it in real time, it was just, oh my God.
Exactly.
Of course.
And it's exactly what you said about working at the State House, right? You put boundaries in place with like the kinds of cases that you were going to take on just to control the flow. And you can do the same thing with pricing and with your money, right? You're saying like, hey, here's the boundary. If you want to pay me over time, that means that I'm essentially financing this service for you. And that costs me money. It costs me like in my cash flow, because cash flow is the lifeblood of a business, y'all.
Absolutely.
If you run, like you could have money due to you, but if you don't have money today when the bills are due, right? You got a problem, right? If you don't have money on the day that payroll is supposed to go through, you have a problem, right? Yes. And so cash flow is something we really have to protect in our businesses, and making sure that, we have the cash that we need to operate the business on a daily basis. And so, yes. And when you give people that choice, like, hey, it's going to cost me more, right? In money management and, like billing and all of those things, to offer you a payment plan. So I'm going to charge you for that, or you could pay up front and not take on those costs.
and they're like, done.
And they're gonna make that decision. The choice is them.
Exactly.
Whereas before, I would think, well, I already raised my prices to this point. How am I to even tell this a different amount? I'm like, no. Their choice is there.
Yes.
I am going to provide an excellent service.
Yes.
And I am going to change their lives because I am going to work to get a good result.
Yes.
And so then when you take that pressure out of me, and yourself, and then it's just the client making that decision. I've seen it again and again and again.
Yes.
And absolutely, it makes a difference when you have X amount of clients paying up front, and then you can use that for marketing and for other things that you have to do.
Exactly.
You want to make more money? You are in the right place. Welcome to the Hello 7 podcast. That's 7 as in 7 figures. I'm your host, Rachel Rodgers.